Still coffee. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a beautiful day for cosplay and prop making. I'm Anthony at Chaos Rogue Designs, and today we're continuing our props, cosplay and coffee series. Got an interesting one to talk about today. Bit of a mix really. Basically, talking about how you would make something like a short sword rigid, but also more in a context of something I've seen online, which I just wanted to talk about it really. So basically, saw a post. Someone is very new to prop making, foam prop making, and yeah, they're making a short sword. I think they were working with the guide, and their short sword is bending. Now, so they asked sort of how you would go about fixing that, and yeah, the response from a lot of people, I don't think anybody was actually wrong, but these people absolutely bombarded this person with 8 or 9 different ways of fixing the issue. And I just wanted to talk about it. Because, I mean, at the end of after this, I will sort of explain how I would do it for sure. So, you know, I'll be someone else with another bit of advice. But damn, people were recommending, you know, like resin, people were recommending warbler, and I'm just thinking, damn, this person's probably just gone out and bought all the foam kit, all the foam stuff, and you're telling them to go out and get this and this and this and use toxic stuff. It probably felt a bit like this. Alright, now I guess you haven't got any, but I think you need to get some warbler. Now, warbler's really, really good because it's a thermoplastic that basically comes in rolls. You heat it up and you wrap your prop around it, or you wrap it around your prop even. And what you do is you heat it up with a heat gun, and then you slowly apply it to your prop, and when it's really dry, it's really, really great because it's nice. Did you also measure the thickness? Because the thickness becomes dry. So I really do think that, like, with the best intentions, I think everyone was just, you know, honestly trying to help, but when there were so many different bits of advice, 9 or 10 people, you know, trying to show you 9 different ways or 10 different ways of doing something, it's confusing, man. I mean, I was reading and I thought, you know what? I'm not even going to bother chiming in. There's no point. There's no point. This person is already confused out of their minds, bless them. And that was kind of like our fault. So, yeah, that sucks. But yeah, so I guess off the subject of the problem at hand, if you're trying to give advice to someone and you see like a whole bunch of people have done it already, maybe add to what they've done rather than a whole new thing. Yeah. It was horrible. I felt really uncomfortable reading it, actually. I was like, this poor person, I bet you wish you never asked. But anyway, how would you make a prop? A little bit of a longer prop. Rigid. So there's one method that I use most of the time. So this is no warbler, no resin. I mean, resin's cool, right? Resin is cool, but I wouldn't use resin for a sword, really, usually. So something like this hasn't got resin on it yet, but if you make something small and intricate like this, this is a throwing star. It's meant to be one of Genji's. It's really bendy because the material itself is very thin. Eventually I'm going to put resin on this and it will make it very, very strong. But if you're not making something this small and fiddly, you probably don't need to do that. So there's a couple of ways you can do it. First of all, you can just make the prop a little bit thicker. Also, it's worth pointing out, this person, they got as far as the sort of like, this is the base stage, and they were happy to remake, at least. But I think if a prop is going to get over like 20 odd centimeters long, I would normally be thinking about how it's going to support its own weight. Now, this is actually one of the very first props I ever made, and this was actually from a template and a guide by Punished Props. So this is actually floor mats, two floor mats stuck together with their backs facing one another. And then thin foam on top for the detail. This thing is actually quite big. It is pretty damn big, actually. But the reason this thing holds its shape without any supports is it's very, very thick. You see that? I measured it. This thing is 25 millimeters thick. That's huge. That's huge. Or it might be 26. So, you know, it's got 2 roughly 10mm thick bits of floor mat, and then thin foam on either side, just so I could etch that detail in. So this holds its shape purely because it's quite fat. Extreme example, for sure. Because I've also got one here. This is a little bit shorter, for sure. But this is a knife I'm making from Hunt Showdown. And it's got a little bit of detail on the blade. It's really... Wow, the green screen really doesn't like that, huh? It really looks jet black. Cool. But it's got some details on the blade. I'm not gonna make this one go on too long because you really can't see what I'm trying to show you. But it's got a little bit of detail on the side of the blade, and because that detail is quite thick, it in turn holds the shape. You don't have to have a thick blade to make it rigid though, but if you're not planning on having a thick blade, you do need to plan to do something a little bit different. So rather than getting Warbler and wrapping your prop around that, Warbler is great by the way, but I will do a few videos on that in the future for sure. You can, and what I would normally do is put a core of something down the middle of the foam. So what I normally do, if I'm making a blade, it's normally about what, 5mm thick in the middle, 3mm thick in the middle. I'll normally cut the blade shape out, and I will get a wooden dowel that's the same thickness, and you can get them very cheap in mass on Amazon. Literally just punch in what you need. So wooden dowel, 3mm or 5mm, and you know they'll come at that. They'll come at the pre-cut like that. So if you've got a 5mm thick bit of foam, you can literally cut out a line and just stick the piece of wood in it. Now, so this is a sword made in that way. So this is still 100% EVA foam, apart from the wooden core. Now, this is loosely based on Zero's sword from Borderlands, and his sword has a kind of metal piece at the top where it holds a sort of like plasma blade. So the top of this is still very, very thin. It's 5mm foam, and I think it's 3mm and 3mm. So it's very thin. It might even be 5, 2, and 2. And then I have put this blade separate, and this one is it's just a small piece of probably 5mm foam, I would say. But because the wood goes all the way through, yeah, it holds this shape very well. It honestly works a treat. Honestly works a treat, and it's still lovely and lightweight, so you know, everything you would want from a foam prop. And of course the material is lovely to paint on, and it's lovely and smooth as well. So that's how I always do swords, or anything that's a little bit longer. If it's starting to get to about 20-25 centimeters long, that's where I'm starting to look at it and think, you know what, it might need a bit of support. And ultimately, if you don't put any support in, it might wobble. If you do, even if you didn't need it, it will just be a little bit rigid, and that's honestly great. If anything, that's an advantage. So not to add to this person's shopping list of things, but if I was going to try and make a blade a bit more rigid, that's certainly how I would do it. It does take a little bit of planning for sure, but the 15 minutes it would take for you to cut out a gully and then stick a bit of wood in there is far less than wrapping it in Warbler and then treating that stuff over and over until it's smooth, and it's far safer than using resin, toxic resin. Don't get me wrong, resin is good as well, but there's a time and a place, and I don't think a sword made out of foam necessarily needs to be that, but hey, my opinion. Anyway, that's going to do it for today. I just really wanted to go through, you know, making a sword straight, but also, like, when you're trying to give advice to people, when I'm trying to give advice to people, there's a time and a place for that as well, for sure. Anyway, that's going to do it for today's Props, Cosplay and Coffee. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something useful. If you did, you know, please like the video, subscribe, trying to get a bit of traction on the platform. Both of those things really do go a long way to making that happen. But yeah, take it easy. See you then.